Welcome to Audacity-ISM podcast. Here we talk about God, personal finance, and business. We are jumping into our Bible story series and opening up with the story of creation with Adam and Eve. The Bible starts out by saying that the earth in the beginning was formless, it was dark, and there was nothing, honestly. There was just darkness all over the earth, and it was empty. And then God comes on the scene, and he hovers over the earth for a while. In other words, he kind of almost took a step back and just kind of planned out how he was going to do all of the great things that he was about to do. And so then he begins his task on day one. Day one. The first thing God does is he commands light to come forth. And when it does, he separates the light from the darkness. He calls the light day, and then the darkness he calls night. On day two, he speaks into existence a vault. And so he called the vault sky, so that there will be water above it and beneath it. Day three. God commands the water that were unorganized to gather together, and he calls it sea. And then he calls the dry land ground. And then he commands the land to bring forth vegetations and seed-bearing plants and trees of all kinds, and it did so. On day four, God says, "Let there be light in the sky to light up the earth." It will mark day from night, and then it will also be used as an instrument to mark significant times, days, and such. And then it was on this day also that he created the stars. And he distinguishes the effect of the lighting so that the greater light will govern the day, and then the lesser light will govern the night. On day five, God calls forth two sets of creatures. Fishes for the sea, and then birds for the air. So sea animal of all kinds were created, and birds of all kinds were created as well. And he blesses them, and then he instructs them to be fruitful and populate the earth. On day six, God commands creatures of all kinds to come forth, livestock, wild animals, and such, and all creatures. It is on day six also that God says, "Let us make mankind in our own image and our likeness, so that they will govern over the fishes of the sea, the birds of the air, and the wild animals and livestock that move upon the ground." So after God created everything, he then creates the first man, Adam. And he puts him in the Garden of Eden where he created for him to live. And then God instructs Adam that he can eat from all of the trees in the garden except for the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And God plans in his heart that it is not good for the man to be alone, and so he will create a suitable partner for him. Well, meanwhile, there was still some work to be done, and so God brings all of the animals and creatures that he had created and instructs Adam to name all of them. And so Adam go ahead and do so. After his task, God puts him to rest. While he is asleep, God takes a rib from him and forms the second human being. And when Adam wakes up, he sees this human and he's like, "Oh, wow, bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh." Adam says this because he had just got through naming all of the creatures God created, and he didn't see none of them that looked like him. But when he saw Eve, he's like, "Yes, this one looks like me." And so he called her woman, and both of them were naked, and they felt no shame. And it is for this reason, as the Bible says, that a man will leave his mother and his father to be united with his wife so that they will become one flesh. Let's go back to Genesis chapter 2, verse 16 to 17. It says, Adam is basically spoken to by God. "And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, 'You may surely eat of every tree of the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge and good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die.'" Now the Bible says that the serpent was more crafty than all of the wild animals and livestock that God had created. And then the serpent said to the woman, "Did God really say that you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" Eve goes on to explain to the serpent what God actually said. She said, "We may eat from the trees in the garden, but God did say, you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it or you will die." Let's get something straight. The devil who is speaking through the serpent in this part of the story, he's not speaking to give Eve clarity on what God said. He is not confused about what God said either. He is just out to make God look like a liar and to destroy Adam and Eve. That is his goal here. Eve, being innocent and not even knowing what's really going on, basically goes on to explain to the devil what God says, and then he gives her his explanation of what will really happen if she does eat from the tree. And this is what the devil says. "You will not certainly die," the serpent said to the woman, "for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be open and you will be like God, knowing good from evil." Eve then accepts his offer, takes the fruit and eats it, and then she gives some to her husband Adam. Adam eats it as well. And both of their eyes were open. They realize that they're naked, and they decide to sew some fig leaves together and cover up themselves. Now it's evening time, and God is coming in the garden to hang out with Adam and Eve. And he calls out Adam. "Adam, where are you?" He says, "I heard you in the garden and I was afraid, and so I hid myself because I'm naked." Then God said to them, "Have you eaten from the tree which I commanded you not to eat from?" Adam tells God that Eve gave him the fruit to eat. And then God asked Eve, "What have you done?" Eve said that the serpent deceived her and she ate the fruit. And then God goes to the serpent and talks to him and said that because you have done this, you will be cursed among all livestock and wild animals. You will crawl on your belly all your life. There will be enmity between you and the woman. And then God goes to the woman and he tells her, your punishment will be severe pain in childbirth, and your desire will be for your husband. And then God tells Adam, because of you, the ground is cursed. You will have to go through painful labor in order to feed. God then kills an animal and makes clothing for them and sends them out of the garden so that they would not eat from the tree of life and live forever.